powerful woman, ordered security to drag a tired father off the plane. And nobody expected what happened next. Sitting in seat 2, a wealthy airline shareholder had already decided, without asking a single question, that this man didn't belong in her section. She'd looked at his worn jacket and old sneakers and made up her mind in seconds. Then she called for security. The cabin went silent as his young son grabbed his sleeve, eyes wide with fear. But before the officers reached him, the cockpit door opened, and the man who stepped out changed everything. If you believe people deserve to be judged by their character, not their clothing, take a second to like this video. Comment where you're watching from, and subscribe before we continue. It was a foggy Tuesday morning at a small airport outside Denver. Marcus Doyle, 34, held tightly to his 8-year-old son Eli's hand. His jacket was patched, his jeans mended, because every spare dollar he earned went toward Eli's medical bills. 3 years earlier, Eli had been diagnosed with a rare autoimmune condition that made walking painful on bad days. Marcus had sold his truck, his tools, almost everything he owned, just to afford treatment. Eli's mother had passed away years before, and Marcus had raised him alone ever since. This trip mattered more than any before it. A specialist in Chicago had finally agreed to see Eli for a promising new therapy. Missed this flight, and the next opening wouldn't come for 8 months. Months Eli's doctor feared he didn't have. So Marcus emptied his savings and boarded with his son, grateful just to have made it to the gate on time. 3 rows ahead sat Diane Foster, 46, one of the airline's largest shareholders. She noticed Marcus's tear-worn jacket, noticed Eli's careful aching steps, and decided instantly that they didn't belong among her airline's passengers. When Eli coughed quietly from his medication, Diane sighed loudly enough for others to hear. "Some people don't understand what economy tickets are for," she muttered to her assistant. She flagged down the flight attendant, Renata, and demanded Marcus be removed before landing. Renata saw nothing but a father comforting his son, but Diane's wealth and standing carried enormous weight. Reluctantly, the concern was radioed ahead, and through a hurried, half-informed handoff, 2 security officers boarded and made their way straight to row 5. Whispers spread through the cabin. Eli's small hand gripped his father's arm as the officers asked Marcus to stand. Marcus rose calmly, one hand on his son's shoulder, ready to protect his dignity no matter what came next. That's when the cockpit door swung open. Captain Samuel Reyes stepped out and froze. 11 years earlier, on a rain-soaked highway outside Colorado Springs, Reyes's car had flipped and caught fire with his teenage daughter trapped inside. While bystanders stood frozen, one stranger ran through the flames, pried the door open, and pulled her to safety, then went back for Reyes himself. The man suffered burns doing it, refused help, gave a false name, and vanished before Reyes could ever thank him. For 11 years, Reyes had wondered if he'd ever see that man again. He was looking at him now. "Marcus," Reyes said, voice breaking. From the highway, he crossed the aisle and embraced him in front of the entire cabin. "This man saved my daughter's life. He saved mine. And he disappeared before I could even learn his name." The cabin fell into stunned silence. The officers lowered their radios. Passengers who'd watched Marcus humiliated moments earlier now looked at him with awe. Eli looked up at his father in wonder. "You never told me you did that." "It wasn't something I did for a reward, buddy," Marcus said softly. "It just needed doing." Diane sat frozen, her certainty crumbling. She thought of her own father, a mechanic in stained coveralls she'd once been embarrassed by. Slowly, she stood, walked back to Marcus, and said quietly, "I was the one who called security. I judged you before I knew anything about you. I'm sorry." Marcus studied her, then nodded. Apology accepted. "We've all got somewhere we're trying to get to." Captain Reyes personally arranged a wheelchair and expedited transport for Eli in Chicago, ensuring they made the appointment with time to spare. Within months, the new therapy began working. Eli grew stronger, eventually joining his school's track club. Diane never forgot that flight. Months later, she quietly funded a travel assistance program for families rushing to urgent medical care, and insisted her name stay off it. She'd learned, 30,000 feet in the air, that wealth had taught her how to build a company, but not how to recognize real character. If this story moved you, like this video, share it with someone who needs the reminder, and subscribe for more. Because sometimes the people we judge fastest are the ones who'd run straight into the fire to save us, expecting nothing in return.